Welcome to Distorted Opinions. I'm Kayla, and as always, I'm with Matt and Ted. And guys, we've got an interesting show topic for today.
I can't wait for this one.
Yeah, it's a good one, and we're gonna open it instead of doing our usual like launching into talking about the actual bands or songs that we picked out for this. We're gonna do a little bit of discussion beforehand to kind of lead into this. So we're gonna be talking about parody songs and artists, and I think when you hear the word parody, that can have different meanings for different people. So I know, Ted, you spent quite a bit of time trying to kind of figure this out.
Right. And like when I was just, when we established that this was going to be the topic for this week, I immediately went to look at the definitions of, what qualifies as parody, because there's certainly funny songs. And, sure. Even mentioning like the Seagulls song where it's, from YouTube, if you're not familiar, it has like Yoda and, basically singing along, making up, it's a funny song anyway. But again, it's just a funny song, but it's original music. Mm-hmm. So it's not really is it a parody? Does that qualify as a parody, even though you're using a character from a different thing and you're making original music over it? Or are we actually talking about we're taking a popular song, Weird Al style, everybody knows the main theme and you can bop along to it, but now the words are funny and you're taking the music in a different direction because you changed the lyrics for it. So there's two ways to look at it. And certainly I feel like for the couple that I picked for this week, they fall into both categories. Definitely between original music. Yeah. And then actual cover and then putting funny words over it too. It definitely not the easiest. I mean, for the purist, trying to be like, oh, that's not a parody song. This is, it's this is satire. It's not parody. And I mean, it does get blurred together. But definitely wanted to point that out anyway, because it definitely changed how I looked and selected some of the bands a little bit and tried to think outside of the box. And obviously everybody knows Weird Al. And it's the first thing that everyone thinks of when it comes to parody music. But in that sense, obviously covering an existing famous song and then making, commenting or satirizing a aspect about life or whatever. So, so just kind of want to get all that out of the way. No.
Sure. And I think it's safe to say that the three of us did not pick, just to be upfront with our listeners, the three of us did not pick Weird Al as an artist specifically for this episode because, I mean, I don't want to speak for you guys, but I felt like he was a little bit too obvious of a choice, and I kind of just assumed that one of the two of you were going to pick him, but then it turned out we were talking before we started the show.
We're all thinking the same thing.
None of the three of us, because we were like, oh, someone else is going to pick him. It seems kind of obvious. So just so that we, don't be upset if you're a big Weird Al fan and we're not going to spend a lot of time on him, but it just seemed a little bit too obvious. So I know I tried to pick groups that I don't think mine are quite as obscure as Matt and Ted's might be, but I tried to pick groups that were not Weird Al. So
well, and like you said, it's the first thing everyone thinks of. And I mean, there's plenty of analysis out there. There's plenty of, best of, and certainly very notable, but not included for our lists of things to point out for this particular episode. So
we could spend a whole show just on Weird Al, honestly.
His career is amazing.
But I have respect for, the other bands and whatnot, the other artists. We'll be talking on them. No disrespect to Weird Al. He is, the king of kings, when it comes down to comedic song parodies and whatnot. So I'm sure down the line we'll re-talk on this subject, maybe even dedicate an episode to him, because I mean it's Weird Al.
And actually, there's so much to talk fun on. Fact, one of the first times I ever hung out with Matt, or actually one of the first trips I ever went on with Matt, we had the biggest laugh off of Weird Al's tape. I think it was tape. It was at we went camping with your mom and your sister, and like back in middle school, and we were like cranking Weird Al, and you were making up even alternative lyrics to the song already.
I believe
we were dying.
I believe that album was Weird Al's Bad Hair Day.
I believe it was. Yep. Yeah, that was such a long. Yeah, so we've already bonded over Weird Al in the past.
It's a classic and whatnot. But for those that who know us, and for listeners that are at this point getting to know us, or even new listeners just figuring out who we are. Ted, Kayla, we all have a history of, doing our own parodies, growing up. And, as Ted mentioned, even when we have jam sessions, we even do our own, we probably have enough material to come out with our own parody, type of album. Why? Because that's the creativity that we have. We all have fun with it. Alcohol involved, no alcohol involved. It's still funny as hell and whatnot. But, that's something that, we were inspired on, growing up with, getting introduced to, hey, there's a song, but, you mean to tell me that even a parody of a song could be just as popular as the actual tune itself? Yep. Well, welcome, ladies and gentlemen, Weird Al Yankovic.
Right.
So, and still to this day, we still have our own parodies and whatnot. So if you're curious as to see as what songs we actually created, you could reach out to us and, we could
I think
direct
the last
message you
one
on
we
them.
had put together pre-pandemic was titled Pizza Hut.
Not sponsored by Pizza Hut.
No, not sponsored. That'd be great though. Holy cow.
Yeah, reach out if you're interested in Pizza Hut.
It would be.
Nice. Well, I think on that point, let's jump right in. I think
Alrighty.
For one of my bands that I selected in it's again parody in a different sense, maybe non-traditional. It is Austrian Death Machine, which is a metal band that they impersonate Arnold Schwarzenegger as the lead singer. And they do reference a lot of Terminator things in their songs. So there's a song called Get to the Chopper. There's, let's see, let me grab. So there is I'm a cybernetic organism, living tissue over metal, over endoskeleton. Who is your daddy and what does he do?
Who's your daddy? What does he do?
It's not a tumor. It's literally song tracks off of their first album. And so it's really, really funny. The vocalist is from the band As I Lay Dying and has a lot of other, basically it's an As I Lay Dying cover band doing Arnold Schwarzenegger songs, but really funny. And if you like As I Lay Dying as a band, you're really going to like the music because it's pretty much the same. But just the comic aspect of having Arnold Schwarzenegger say ridiculous things in a music setting, which is hilarious. So big fan. Have had that album for a number of years now. And really, if you haven't heard, it's really funny. So definitely Austrian Death Machine on that. And again, because it's original music, but just parody vocals being funny, that's how it qualified for me. But another band that I came across, and it's a bit more notable, I think maybe more people have heard of this band. It's called Max Sabbath. And Max Sabbath is a cover band of Black Sabbath. But all their songs are about McDonald's. And they dress up as characters. Like the lead singer is like Ronald McDonald, but like kind of scarier. So the vocalist, the name Ronald Osborne. The guitar player is Slayer McCheese. The bass player is Grimulus, aka I Can't Believe It's Not Butler. And the drummer is Cat Burglar. So they just cover Black Sabbath songs, but then just, take the piss out of McDonald's in the process. So if you YouTube Max Sabbath, there is War Pigs rendition called More Ribs. There's a song Pair of Buns. There's a Sweet Beef song. There's Frying Pan. And they've also self-proclaimed themselves to be the inventing the genre drive-through metal, which everything needs a subgenre these days. And they have actually met Ozzy Osbourne. So imagine getting the tribute band and Ozzy together in the same room. There's videos of that on YouTube as well. So
That's awesome.
They look ridiculous. Like Grimace has like his tongue hanging out and kind of like devil horn eye, bright red eyes. Like it's pretty outrageous. Highly recommend checking that out because it's also just ridiculous funny. So
I have to ask, what constitutes it as drive-through metal? Is there like a voiceover at some point where they're like, would you like a hot apple pie with that? Like what?
I don't know. I mean, I think it just because of the fast food, you know, that's all their songs are about. McDonald's, that's how it qualifies. But
drive-through metal.
I haven't listened to enough of the songs to know if they in
Then
there at all.
With,
so
then they open up with da 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 da.
I gotta hear these guys. I've never heard them. They sound hilarious.
Yeah, well, yeah, like just the clips of everything. They look really funny. There's live performances from them. It looks pretty good. So for parodies, that's where I'm sticking. Just for short and sweet, those two for definitely something new and different. But on that note,
I'm just imagining myself at that concert with like a 10-piece nugget and just enjoying the show.
Would you like to supersize that?
That's 1014 drive up window.
Second window. Yeah.
Oh my god.
So that's my good finds for today.
Awesome.
Matt, what do you have for your list for what we have?
Indeed. So it's funny, you know, getting prepped for the show. I mean, again, there's so many artists out there that, you know, you even have artists that make fun of their own tunes and whatnot, and you know that's just classic itself. But one of the things I was coming across was, you know, more on the aspects of really those that are into comedy and just doing an album rather than, you know, taking a song and then making, you know, a different twist of it. So with that being said, when I was doing a search, I came across these two bands, which honestly, it was a complete lottery. I just said, hey, I'm going to pick this one and I'm going to pick this one. And I'm glad that I did, because didn't even realize that these guys or these groups were still playing to this day. And some of them are new and some of them are old. So the first group I'm going to talk about is, and Kayla, you're going to enjoy this one. The band's called Metallica, not Metallica, Metallica. So that's Beatallica. So they are a Beatles and a Metallica mashup band.
I would.
Okay. Hear me out.
I'm not bashing it. I'm just trying to put those two very different bands together.
Yes.
It's just not connecting in my head
doesn't
right
compute.
There. No.
So hear me out, right? So these guys, they're from Milwaukee, Wisconsin, formed in 2001. They came out with an EP called A Garage Day's Night. And the songs on that EP, I actually listened to it. I was laughing my ass off. Is Sergeant Heffield's Motor Breath Pub Band, A Garage Day's Night, Four Horsemen, No Remorseful Reply, The Thing That Should Not Let It Be, and Everybody's Got a Ticket to Ride except for Me and My Lightning. So they're obviously, you know, they're imagine the best way to probably explain this is imagine hearing a Beatles tune, but to the voice with James Hetfield. Okay. And even
I was
the
thinking
members,
of like Metallica drums with like, it's just sped up Beatles.
Oh no. It's same. Some of the tunes are like It's hard to explain. It's funny as hell though. The members actually go under by stage names too. So we have James Lenfield, Greg Hamilton, Cliff McBurkney, and Ringo Lars.
Oh no.
One of the tunes I was listening to earlier this morning was their rendition of "Let It Be," and it's funny because it's so good, but at the same time it's got a little bit of cringiness because, again, Ted, like what you were saying, it's like how does that even happen? You have two different genres from two different time periods together. And for some reason, these guys still made it happen. I mean, they got some popularities too. They actually have, if I'm looking on here, they have about they have 7 albums. So that just goes to show that, they're obviously still playing with the latest one called Abbey Load,
which I think is hilarious. And
from 2000.
I see the picture of that cover, and it's clearly in the United States.
Oh yeah,
American vehicles, but they're crossing the street. But it's the band members.
Boston.
No, well, they said it was from Wisconsin, right?
From Wisconsin.
Yeah.
So
But
it's
still,
gonna be
Milwaukee.
Yeah, it's pretty clever.
So they have like some of the, but like take for instance for that album, when I'm looking on here, they have a song called Michelle that incorporates the music from Who the Bell Tolls. Help, which incorporates music from Helpless. Blackbird, which incorporates music from Fade to Black. And finally, Golden Slumbers, which incorporates the music from Until It Sleeps. So I definitely recommend checking these guys out because, again, it's very weird. It's pretty much like having I can't even make an analogy at this point because the coffee hasn't even kicked in and went up. But imagine probably trying something that you probably wouldn't even heard of and saying, hey, actually, this is not really bad, but I'm not going to tell you what's in it because it will just, you'll judge it before trying it out. So that's going to be the first band I'm talking about is Metallica. The second one I'm a fan of. If anyone knows, I'm a big 70s kind of 80s type of person and whatnot. Okay, with a little bit of disco in there. So hey, we got to talk about the Bee Gees. But there is a fictional band that was formed in the UK in the 1980s called the Heebie-Jeebies.
All right.
So it's a fictional band featuring Angus Dayton, Michael Fenton Stevens, and Phillips Pope from the UK radio series Radioactive. And they have actually stage names as well. They go under the Gribb Brothers. So not the Gibb Brothers, but the Gribb Brothers. And we have Gary, who's referencing Barry Gibb, Norris, who's referencing Maurice Gibb, and then you have Dobbin, who's referencing Robin Gibb. So the first LP is noted as 439 Golden Greats, or never mind the originals. Here's the Heebie-Jeebies, released in 1981. Some of this, check these guys out. I've laughed my ass off because literally when we're talking about a replica of the Bee Gees, but literally in a comedic way, these guys sound exactly like them. If you didn't know who these guys were, you would think that maybe the Bee Gees would have probably just I don't know whether they're drunk or high.
It was like B-roll comedy. Like they made up funny lyrics for their songs. It's so I was laughing my ass off or whatnot. They have songs called Meaningless Songs, which was referencing to their tune, the Bee Gees tune in very high voice. There's Too Depressed to Commit Suicide, which is a parody of Up the Wall. Boring Song, which is a comedy of Dead Cicada. And then they have one called Purple Pants, which is one from When Two Songs Sound the Same. It's, again, when having that roulette of picking bands for today's episode, coming across these two, obviously two different genres,
brought it back to that nostalgia of, you know, when we were all young and listening to Weird Al for the first time, but knowing the fact that, oh wow, these guys were actually even before Weird Al, you know, even began. So even after this episode, I'm going to look more into, you know, more of, you know, the heebie-jeebies and the Metallica and listening more to these tunes, because I mean, if you definitely want a good laugh, definitely highly recommend checking these guys out. So that's going to be the heebie-jeebies. And yeah, it's funny. Kayla, what do you got?
So I just want to mention, before we started the show, one of you two had mentioned Bob Rivers, who's another one that I had thought about, but I didn't put him on my list. So I just want to give him like a quick honorable mention, because particularly he's got some tunes for the holidays. And I think we did mention him briefly in our Christmas, our holiday Christmas episode.
He's Twisted, literally from Twisted Christmas.
That's right. So yeah, he's got a lot of classics that you've probably heard of, but you may not realize it's Bob Rivers. So the first group on my list is one that, you know, when I sat down to start writing notes for this show, I was kind of struggling a bit, because the only person I could really think of was Weird Al. And I'm like, okay, I know there's other artists out there. I don't know who. So I started Googling it. And one of the first bands that popped up, I can't believe I didn't even think of them. I also probably could have talked about them at length during our movie soundtracks episode, because they had a mockumentary, which is all music. And that group
I know where you're going with this.
Spinal Tap.
Of course.
So these guys actually started as a parody band and then became an actual band that's still technically a parody band. Like, it's actors, but I believe they learned to play the instruments and they actually do concerts, or they did concerts. I don't know if they're still touring at this point. But
so to jump right in, do you also know of another band that started off as a fictional band and became a real band? Ready? The Monkees.
Oh, yeah. Yes, I did know that.
The Monkees started off as regular actors.
Right.
And then they ended up actually learning how to play the instruments and went on tour too. So just had to throw that little stub in.
Yes, I forgot about them, but yes, that is correct.
They're not comedy though.
No. Spinal Tap is really, so these guys, they were meant to be comedy. It's actually, they're supposed to be an English heavy metal band, and they originally appeared on a sketch comedy pilot called The TV Show, starring Rob Reiner, where they did a mock promotional video for their song Rock and Roll Nightmare, and then it kind of just turned into this bigger thing. So it consists of Derek Smalls, played by Harry Shearer on bass, Nigel Tufnell, played by Christopher Guest on lead guitar, and David St. Hubbins, played by Michael McKean as the lead singer and rhythm guitarist. And so this is one movie, I guess, that you could say that I have seen. Very, very funny. If you haven't seen it, I highly recommend it. But they had the mockumentary came out around the same time as their album This Is Spinal Tap, which hilariously the cover of it is just all black. So I'm gonna throw in a random Metallica reference here. There was a documentary that came out in the early 90s called A Year and a Half in the Life of Metallica, and it was basically behind the scenes of the band recording the Black Album and then touring for it. And there's a scene in there where James and Kirk are at an event that Spinal Tap are at, and I don't remember what the event was offhand, but the Spinal Tap guys are kind of seen giving them some crap about the fact that they made their album the Black Album, because the Black Album, the Spinal Tap album, came out years before that, and Nigel's standing there and he makes a comment. He says, "It's an underhanded left-wing tribute, is what it is." And then they go back and forth, and there's some talk about, but there's a snake on their album cover, and there's a gray Metallica on there, and one of them says, well, maybe if we'd put Metallica on the cover of our album, it would have done better. And so they're just ripping on Kirk and James for the Black Album thing, and it's really hilarious. But the documentary, there are a number of very well-known lines from that if you haven't seen it, you probably still heard some of these lines. Like at one point, they're getting interviewed by the interviewer, and Nigel's showing off his amp, and he's got this Marshall stack, and he's like, you know, this one, this goes to 11, where most amps just go to 10. So, you know, you're on 10 on your guitar, and it's one louder. Where can you go from there? Nowhere. So you go to 11. These and the interviewer's like, but why not just make 10 go louder? And he goes, but these go to 11. Like, there's a pause, and he's just like, but these go to 11. So,
classic.
I mean, even if you haven't seen the movie, you've probably heard that line before. Especially if you're a musician and a guitarist in particular. There's some other really funny scenes. Their most well-known tracks, I think, off of the This Is Spinal Tap album are Big Bottom and Stonehenge, and they play both of those in the mockumentary. And there's one point where they're playing a show outdoors somewhere, and Nigel's wireless system on his guitar starts picking up air traffic that's flying over, and he gets pissed off about it, and I think he walks off stage. And then they show, like, much further down the road, they're playing another gig, and he goes to play his guitar, and it's still picking up the air traffic from the previous gig where it was picking it up. Probably one of the funniest scenes. I remember peeing my pants laughing at this. So they're going through airport security, and the bass player keeps setting off the metal detector. So they get out the wand, and they're like scanning him, and they keep scanning the front of his pants, and it keeps going off, and they're trying to figure out why. So he unzips his pants, and he pulls out, he's got a cucumber wrapped in aluminum foil, and it's like, what is going on here? I mean, just absolutely hilarious. And that's not even talking their songs, which their songs are original, but I think, you know, like Ted was talking about before we got started, the definition of parody, you know, they're original, but they're meant to be humorous. So I think that falls into the parody category. It wasn't intended to be a real band. It was intended to be this band that was kind of like a one-off joke, and then it turned into this much bigger thing where they actually did become a band, and all of their songs have a little bit of humor laced into them. But just absolutely hilarious. That movie, their music, those guys are super funny. I'm not gonna spend a whole lot more time on them because my song of the week, I'm gonna talk about them a little bit more, but I do
Sneak
have,
peek.
Yep.
yeah, a whole preview of what's to come there. So the next, I guess you would call them artists. I don't really know how to define them. So I think a lot of people have probably heard of them because they've been pretty much making the rounds on social media, especially in the last year. But the Holderness family, they have a YouTube channel. They're on Instagram. They're on Facebook. It's Kim and Penn Holderness and their kids. And they just do these, they're kind of, I guess you would equate them to being kind of like Weird Al, because they take these backing tracks of well-known songs. They do have some originals, but most of them are parodies. And they put these really hilarious lyrics to the backing tracks. And a lot of the songs that they put out in the last year have been quarantine related. So, they've actually got a playlist over on YouTube that's called Tunes to Fight Gloom, and it's all stuff that's kind of poking fun at what's been going on for the last year. And they've got a parody of All By Myself by Celine Dion, and Come On Vaccine, which is a parody of Come On Eileen. Everybody knows Come On Eileen, so it's, it's a well-known song, and then they take it to a whole nother level, and it opens up with Penn and Kim talking about how they're like, has anybody ever heard this song before 1:45 in the morning? And Penn's talking about how that's the song they used to play at the bars when they were getting ready to shut down for the night. So everybody's singing along to Come On Eileen. And so obviously it's Come On Vaccine. And they're talking about how excited they are for a vaccine to be made available so that life can get back to somewhat back to normal. And so there's just a lot of stuff like that. It's amazing to me because they pump these things out so quickly. I swear they must have a new song and video, at least one a week, sometimes more. And they're very well done. Their videos are highly produced. Their songs are very well recorded and highly produced, and it's just, I think Kim and Penn both come from a production and a media background, so that probably has a lot to do with it. But I just, anytime I see that they've posted a new song, I know that it's going to put a smile on my face because they're just super, super funny. So if you're feeling a little down and you think you need a laugh, go check out the Holderness Family on YouTube or on Instagram, because they've got a lot of really funny stuff that they're putting out, and not just quarantine related stuff. They've got other songs too, but a lot of the last year has been quarantine oriented, and it's just funny. So those are my two groups for this episode. If you guys don't have anything else to add,
yeah, I think you need to. It's time for your general spiel.
Yes,
all right. Like we need that reminders. What we got going on.
Okay, so we have a Spotify Song of the Week playlist. We put the link to that in the description of every episode. So if you want to check out any of our past picks in their entirety, or if you want to hear any of the picks that we're going to talk about today in their entirety, be sure to check out that playlist. Again, link is in the description. Every episode has it, so you can find it there pretty easily. With that, I kind of teased a bit that I was going to talk a bit more about Spinal Tap, and honestly, I had a hard time because I really wanted to pick Big Bottom, if for no other reason than the fact that the bass player's playing a double neck BC Rich bass, and I don't think I've ever seen a double neck bass before. And also the rest of the members, with the exception of the drummer, are also playing bass, so it's all bass and drums throughout the whole song. It's big bottom. I mean, I guess the bass is kind of a play into that, but also the lyrics, if you listen to them, are hilarious and obviously relate to butts. But I couldn't get past my memories of seeing the scene in This Is Spinal Tap where they're playing Stonehenge for the first time in concert and dying over this scene because... So if you haven't seen it, first of all, Stonehenge, 1984, This Is Spinal Tap. That's where you can find the song. The mockumentary where they play this, the band is dressed in robes, and there's this big lead-in where Nigel's talking about druids and Stonehenge, and there's some cool rock guitar part. And then about 2 minutes in, this friggin' 18-inch Stonehenge statue comes down from the ceiling while Nigel's playing this ditty on a mandolin, and I don't know whether or not this is the politically correct term, but this is the term they use in the movie, so don't shoot the messenger. They've got a couple of dwarves who are dancing around this little Stonehenge, and they show the band members as they're looking and they realize what's going on, because it was supposed to be a scale-sized Stonehenge that was supposed to come down, and it's this little tiny thing. They show the band members, and the look on their faces is like they can't believe what's happening. Nigel's like looking down at the Stonehenge, watching these guys dance around it. They cut to the manager, who knew that it was coming, because in the previous scene they showed him talking to the woman who created the Stonehenge statue, and he's like, this will look great when it's scaled up to full size. And she's like, I'm sorry, what do you mean scaled up to full size? And he goes, well, this is just a mock-up, right? And she goes, no, this is the actual Stonehenge. And he's like, what do you mean this is the actual Stonehenge? This is miniature. And she's like, you wrote on the mock-up, you wrote 18 inches, and she pulls out this napkin, and they've written, because they meant to write 18 feet, and somebody put an extra mark on the end there. So they cut to the manager when this is all going down, and he's just standing there like with his arms crossed, totally unfazed by it, because he knew it was coming, but clearly didn't tell the band. And so they finish the song, they cut to the next scene, and the band's sitting in a hotel room or something. They're talking about how disastrous this was, and David St. Hubbins, who's the singer, is like, I think the problem may have been that there was a Stonehenge monument on the stage that was in danger of being crushed by a dwarf. That tended to understatement the hugeness of the object. And just the Stonehenge thing, I just remember finding that absolutely hilarious when I saw it for the first time, because you just have to see the looks on the guys' faces. So, I mean, it came down to Big Bottom, and Stonehenge is my pick of the week, but that scene of the movie for me is probably one of the most memorable, and that's the reason that I decided to go with Stonehenge by Spinal Tap as my song of the week. And so
like
that's my pick. And I don't know if you have a preference for who wants to go next.
All right, Ted, who you got?
All right. Well, I already mentioned them earlier, but Austrian Death Machine is definitely a notable parody band, like I had talked about in my song of the week, is indeed Get to the Chopper, because it is really heavy, really fast. It's just got a good groove to it, and the lyrics are very simple. Let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7.
How many times does he say "Get to the chopper"?
At least a dozen times. That's the chorus. And it has really like heavy breakdown and get to the chopper, like just constant, like just it's great. Song of the week. The album was called Total Brutal and came out in 2008. The first album that Austrian Death Machine put out, they put out 3 in total, but this one being the first and this song being my favorite off of that CD. But definitely all the other tracks on there are pretty funny, so definitely check it out. But yeah, get to the chopper.
Nice.
I like it. So let me ask this one question. Kayla, I know in a previous episode we talked about movies.
Yeah.
She finally saw another movie, by the way, because Spinal Tap, right? Like she's referencing another movie.
Okay. Hey,
so we're up to 2 movies Kayla's seen.
Wait.
Top Gun and Spinal Tap.
I mentioned Mission Impossible 2 in the movie soundtrack, so that's
okay.
3.
3. Okay. 3 total.
We'll get there.
Yep.
Kayla, have you ever seen a Star Wars movie?
Yes, it's been a long time, but yes, I have.
Okay, which one?
The original 3.
Oh, all 3?
From beginning to end?
Yeah, I said, it's been a long time, so I don't remember much about
6
them.
movies, Kayla.
Yeah, we'll add those. Okay. So
we're going to start keeping a tally.
Ted, you'll definitely appreciate this one. Kayla, you'll like this one. The song of the week is not exactly referencing off of an album. Again, one of those Google and then YouTube. And when I looked up parody songs, this came this came up. And the song is a Gautier parody of somebody that I used to know. But the song is called The Star Wars That I Used to Know.
Oh, no.
So it's off of a YouTube channel called Teddy Films. It came out in 2012. So if anyone knows of the Gautier song, it features 2 singers, a male and a female. This is featuring Darth Vader and George Lucas. So Darth Vader the vocals are by Israel Curtis, and George Lucas is played by Ryan Richardson. The lyrics are written from Eddie King, Jeremy Warner, and Joseph Winter. Again, I laughed my ass off.
I pulled them up, and it looks just outrageous.
Check it out; it is hilarious. So, again, let's talk about Weird Al for a second. Weird Al came out with an American Pie version of Star Wars. Okay. Mm-hmm. And I thought that was the only one until today. And I want to say it's definitely up there with the Weird Al Yankovic tune of Star Wars. Okay. This song is pretty much every Star Wars fan's heartache that they can relate to. It features Darth Vader and George Lucas, as I mentioned, singing, and they're talking about how George Lucas changes up, the Star Wars environment, and how does the fans relate to it. Everything about this song is they even pretty much replicate how the music video was in Somebody That I Used to Know. So with the body paint, but right when they go to George Lucas, I drop to the floor because it's George Lucas shirtless, but he's also got body paint on him, and he's just looking at Vader and he's singing, pretty much saying like, yeah, I know I screwed the fans over, but it's my Star Wars, so you're gonna get over it. And it's I had no choice but to go ahead and make this the song of the week. I know it's not off of an album, but just the fact that it's on YouTube and it's out there and it's a full-fledged like tune is going to be my song of the week. So it's going to be the Star Wars that I used to know from the YouTube channel Teddy Films that came out in 2012.
So one thing, the second pop thing that comes up underneath that is that there's another Star Wars parody called All About That Bass, and it's the picture of the Death Star.
Oh my god.
That Meghan Trainor song. just that like correlation alone, I'm just laughing at the idea. Clever. Anyway, that's a side note there, but
that's funny.
Nice.
Oh man.
So.
Well, no issue with not having an album in my opinion, because the Holderness family, they don't have an album either, but they've just got a ton of parodies out there. So YouTube, it kind of goes back to our music video conversation. A lot of people are finding their music on YouTube. So, there may not be an album, but it's out there and people are finding it. So
very much so.
Perfect.
So for those that are on the road trip or whatnot, add some comedy to that sound list.
That's right. We'll add all these songs. Well, I may not be able to add Matt's pick to the playlist because I don't know if that exists on Spotify, and it has to exist on Spotify to add it. But
hold on.
Okay, Matt's gonna find out for us. But if it doesn't exist there,
I would be very surprised if it's not on Spotify because it is great.
Yeah, I mean.
Yep, it's on Spotify.
Okay, all right, there you go. It'll be in the playlist, so you can check it out. Link in description to the playlist. You'll find that song and all of our other picks. With that, do you guys have anything else for this week?
I think we're good.
All right.
Easy one to revisit because there's more out there, and we can certainly talk more about it again. And I think just a call out to all the listeners, if you have some notable parody songs or things that or maybe funny satirical type of songs that you like and maybe want to share with us, more than happy to hear from you. Send us an email, voice message, all that fun stuff. Be looking to hear what you guys think.
Yep.
That's right.
Ladies and gentlemen, we will talk about Weird Al. I'm just going to reference that again. I know that there's listeners out there that are still continuing to listen to us. Maybe those that maybe could get word of mouth that didn't finish this whole episode because we didn't talk about Weird Al. We will talk about Weird Al. I promise you.
I hope nobody dropped off just because we didn't talk about Weird Al. I mean, that's why we prefaced it at the beginning that we weren't going to spend a lot of time on Weird Al.
Yes,
just
we'll get there.
We will get there.
Other cool bands.
Do a little nudge and say, hey, listen, the Distorted Opinions guys, they're going to talk about Weird Al. Okay.
That's all right. So, with that, leave us a voicemail, anchor.fm/distorted opinions. You can also find links to our social media platforms there. The usual stuff, partial list of places that the show's available in audio-only format, but we're pretty much everywhere, and you can ask Alexa to play Distorted Opinions, and Alexa will play us probably on Amazon Music if you're set up with that, but there's a lot of other platforms too. And you can also send us an email at distortedopinionsshow@gmail.com. And so we're pretty accessible no matter how you choose to reach us. We do enjoy the voicemails, as we've mentioned on previous shows. Those are always a lot of fun.
And the challenges.
That's right. Yeah, Tim's been coming through with the challenges on a regular basis. So if anybody else would like to leave some sort of a Distorted Opinions challenge, by all means, feel free to reach out to us and let us know what you might like us to try and do for a challenge. So with that, thank you to everybody for tuning in. We'll see you next week with an all-new episode. See you guys then.